Welcome to the latest edition of This Was SportsCenter, the legacy pod, looking back at the OG days of the worldwide leader in sports as it used to be known, and of course the show SportsCenter. And joining me here is a man who did SportsCenter back in the day before he became the voice of college football and tennis and so much more from ESPN, my friend Chris Fowler. Good to see you, Chris.
I'm not original gangsta, but I'm like maybe first generation.
You are OG. Okay. It is a remarkable run that you are still on right now.
Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you too.
Looking forward to this.
You're one of the few guests of This Was SportsCenter who was actually at my wedding, so there's a connection.
I was there.
Well, because again, you know, a lot of people associate me obviously with Stu from back in my day, or Dan, who was also at the wedding, serving drinks as well.
Same table, yes.
Same table. We were all there. But, you know, you and I are not, associated with one another by people who might be on the outside looking in. But you're a dear friend who I've known now for 3 decades, and I'm so psyched that you're here.
I treasure that. Thank you.
No, it's the truth, and I wanted to share that off the top. As well as let everybody who takes in this show know, you know, we have a significant history in that regard. But you're also not, in a way, because of everything you've done, associated with SportsCenter from that day. But you did SportsCenter.
I did a lot of SportsCenter
back in the day.
Yes, I did.
Right. So let's just start, I guess, with this whole business of you joining ESPN. You joined ESPN in '86, right? That was your first year there?
Yeah.
Where'd you come from?
I was in Denver, a year out of school, went to school in Boulder,
right,
and worked at a local station. It was an NBC-owned and operated station in Denver, so it was a good station,
right,
really good sports station. And I put together a little tape,
yeah,
and it got to ESPN.
How to get to ESPN? Because I sent mine to a headhunter.
Yeah, I had a consultant helping me out, and
okay,
they got it there. It got to Al Jaffe's desk.
Oh, yeah.
That name might come up in this
It's
series.
already been coming up all the time. That's how he's the one who called me at my desk in Redding, California.
Yeah. So when I found out ESPN was interested, I thought, SportsCenter.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
What do you mean?
Scholastic Sports America was what they had in mind, which was a high school sports show. They were starting up.
I'm Chris Fowler. Those stories plus a lot more coming up in the next half hour on ESPN Scholastic Sports America.
I looked 11 years old, man. It would have been weird to be on SportsCenter, but I didn't. That's what I knew of ESPN. I was,
right,
in college from 80 to 85, redshirt year, the early years of ESPN.
Right.
So I was a viewer from day one. I watched SportsCenter.
Right.
But that was not what they were calling me about. I got to SportsCenter eventually, but it wasn't really a goal or a destination. It was a high school sports show. The offices were in a trailer in the parking lot
of Bristol, Connecticut.
Yes, I assume because they were short on office space, and not because they didn't want our little show commingling with important people.
Well, I mean,
we were in the parking lot in a trailer.
Sure. So, this is year 7 of ESPN's existence, pretty much.
Yeah.
Is where you get a phone call from Al Jaffe to offer you a job of hosting Scholastic Sports
America. I got summoned to Bristol for an interview because I had a few other, go read scores in Cincinnati as a number 3 guy, or Topeka, Kansas, that kind of thing.
Right.
And those were the conventional jobs to take. That's what you were supposed to do. That's what we were told in journalism school. If you want to get into sports, you start at the entry-level local markets, you get a tape as soon as you can, you move up the ladder, and eventually you get to a station where I ended up starting because I was in a top 20 market, but as the Cub reporter doing the things that they were not interested in doing, the main guys, like no Broncos or Nuggets for me. I was covering CU football, which was terrible, Denver Pioneers hockey, regattas in the mountains. I mean, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But it was great experience. I got to put together features and write stuff about topics that you had to really kind of think about how to sell.
Right.
And that reel got me hired for this show on ESPN where we were doing the same thing, a magazine show, doing features. Emmitt Smith was the first athlete I ever profiled.
Come on.
Pensacola Escambia High School. It was episode 1, interview 1, Emmitt Smith.
Welcome to Escambia High School in Pensacola.
I do what Coach asks us to do, and if it's staying out longer, I'm gonna have to stay out longer if I want to stay on his team. If I don't want to stay out no longer, I'm gonna have to go ahead and turn in my gear and leave right then.
The first episode of Scholastic Sports America was Chris Fowler sitting down with future Florida Gator star and obviously the greatest most prolific runner in Dallas Cowboy, if not all of NFL history.
Absolutely.
The best prospect is Emmitt Smith. At 5'11" and 195 pounds, he's not big, and he's not particularly fast. But he ran for over 3,000 yards last season, and when he suits up, he tears up the opposition.
He was the first
He
one?
was the first guy, the first episode, he was the first guest. We may have shot other ones, but yeah, he was the first episode. There was a whole big bidding war, the Seminoles and the Gators.
You may not think nobody's looking at you, but somebody's out there looking at you play, and you'll get your chance sooner or later. Just hang in there.
Probably under the table, fighting for his services, and we didn't get into that part of it.
No.
But it was really cool. And Alonzo Mourning and Billy Owens, other future NBA players, Janet Evans and Lance Armstrong, who became
that's where
a
you
friend.
met Lance,
Yes.
right?
Lance Armstrong is just home from school. Now it's time to go to work at his part-time job, professional triathlete.
That's my way of affording the things that I want. You know, like other kids have jobs so they can go out on weekends or so they can buy whatever they want to buy. So triathlon is like my job.
There was a lot of really amazing people I met in their high school years. And then you'll meet random people who'll come up to me and say, I was on Scholastic Sports America. Do you remember the archery segment we did in upstate New York? Yeah. It rings a bell. Yeah. But that it was fun, and it was 2 years, and then I moved up. But that was my entree to ESPN.
Sort of like a faces in the crowd type of show. And that is amazing. Emmitt Smith coming straight out of the box.
Pretty cool.
So when did you first get a call from ESPN management to say, do you want to go on SportsCenter? When did that happen for you?
Well, I was there, and I had done the show 2 years.
Right.
And management called me up and said, hey, we got a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to go to L.A. and be the SportsCenter reporter, kind of West Coast bureau guy. They had never had one.
Out here in L.A.?
Yeah, they wanted me to be the first one to go out there. And they figured, young single guy, Bristol. Yeah. Certainly is going to want to go to L.A. and like go cover the Lakers, Dodgers. And, Rich, it just didn't feel right to me. And the conventional, sensible move would have been to say yes to management. Yes. Because that's a good idea. Usually, if they want you to do something, to stubbornly say, no, I'm not interested, it could have been risky. And they thought, you're crazy to stay in a high school sports show and not go do live sports in LA. But I had just gone from west to east, and I was in the headquarters such as it was, and it didn't feel right. And then I said no to that. I thought they were going to put me in another year of that high school show. And then they said a month later, how about doing sidelines in college football and doing features on this pregame show we have on Saturday morning, and do college basketball studio and cover the Final Four? It's like, boom. Yes, instantly.
In on that.
But if I'd said yes to the other thing, I never would have got Game Day. And I don't know if I'd be sitting here with the same resume. So I tell people.
You would have covered the Gibson home run, though.
I would have done some cool things.
Right.
I might have ended up doing what I ultimately wanted to do. Right. But it would have been a detour, and you never know. I mean, I just think we're all a product of the choices we make when you get those forks in the road. And I going to ESPN was, by the way, not a no-brainer either, because to do this show, not live TV, at a 7-year-old cable network that wasn't viewed by a lot of people as a good move, that was a strange choice to the people who were advising me. Advised not to do it.
There were people who said, do not go to ESPN to be the host of Scholastic Sports America.
Correct.
All those stories plus the Record Center's Honor Roll and our nickname of the week. Hi, I'm Chris Fowler in Texarkana, USA. 1 foot in Texas and 1 foot in Arkansas. Welcome to ESPN Scholastic Sports America, the only show covering high school sports in all 50 states.
And so I did anyway, because I thought it would be fun. And by fun, I mean like fulfilling, challenging, and also outside the box. And then the same thing, saying no to coming out here, which would have been the more conventional choice. Chris Myers ended up being hired for that position like soon after. So, I became friends. But I would have had a good time doing it, but I wouldn't have gotten Game Day for sure.
Well, it's interesting that we can detour into this one too, because I kind of want this show to also be about our business and how you can succeed in it, or decisions that are made to lead down to a different or better path. Is I always tell people sometimes, do what you want to do. Don't do something where you're too valuable, where you are doing something you don't want to do to be placed where you want to do something. Don't ever be caught in that vortex.
Good advice.
Which is what basically it sounds like. They wanted you to be in a spot where you might have wound up being particularly valuable to them, but you're not doing what you want to do.
Well, that's the interesting thing about having one employer for 38 years in this business, which is insane. If you thought about that, like, there's no chance. I was told you're going to have to change jobs 5 to 10 times in over span. 4 decades.
Yeah, right.
You know? But the thing about it is there were a lot of different responsibilities. Yeah. We'll get to SportsCenter, but I had to sort of be firm and do what I wanted to do within the framework, what they could offer me, and say no to other things that they would prefer I do. Tennis, I had to leverage my way into tennis and out of college hoops eventually. And I had to leverage my way into college football because they wanted me to do something else. I bounced around doing SportsCenter and had a good time doing it, and I'm sure we can cover all that stuff. But yeah, it was a very unconventional path, even though I've had one employer for 38 years.
What was your first, 38? I mean, if you wound up in Scholastic Sports America in 96, isn't this your 40th year?
I guess it is 40 years.
Not to help you with your
I
math here.
should update it.
Yeah.
This is now the 40th year. Yeah, I was hired.
God,
that's right. I was hired 40 years ago this spring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which means you're about to enter your 5th decade at the worldwide leader, as it used to be known.
It definitely wasn't the worldwide anything back then. That's what was funny about it.
Which is why it's amazing you got advice like, don't do it.
I'm not taking full credit for the growth of the network.
Well, no, I'm giving it to you. I know you're not asking for it. I'll just give it to you. Who's Chris Berman? But seriously. So what was your first sideline reporting?
I just in the 1988 college football season, it was a USC BC game on the Saturday night primetime game on ESPN, which is a pretty good thing. It wasn't like noon Ivy League. It was not to disparage the Ivy League.
Go for it.
More people watch Saturday night.
In the build-up for this college football season, a lot has been said about Southern California, and rightfully so. But don't forget about Boston College. Sure, they were 5-6 last year, but they have a very experienced team this year and a defense that their coaches think might be the best overall here.
And it was sort of, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm like 24.
Yeah.
And I'm in a college town with almost no responsibility for carrying the broadcast for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Life was pretty good. That was fun. That was fun. And then I would, I didn't do the kind of prepping for sideline reporting that like the great Holly Rowe does or people I work with now.
Sure.
Because it was more like read and react. Okay, I knew the teams, but I was about like just seeing what I could find on the sidelines and bouncing around and interviewing fans and that kind of thing. And I had a great time doing it, but then the season ended and I had to figure out what the hell to do with me after football season. And then it got interesting.
Who were was it Ron Franklin in the booth?
Yes, Ron Franklin, Mike Gottfried. Some other guys.
Yeah.
Mike Patrick was in there.
Oh, of course.
Kevin Kiley was an analyst.
Okay.
And I was just, I looked 11 years old.
It's a good blessing to be.
I mean, the high school show. I'm not kidding. I got mistaken for a high school student when I was a college graduate there to cover a high school student.
Come on. Really?
I dressed like this, and I was in the hallway in between classes waiting to shoot video of a guy coming out of this class and walking down.
That's amazing.
I think we were at, might have been Flint Hill Academy or one of those basketball powerhouses, right? So we're waiting to shoot B-roll in the hallway, and I get shaken down for a hall pass by a teacher who didn't believe that I wasn't a high school kid. Oh, the crew, You imagine they liked that.
I bet they
got
did.
a lot of mileage out of that.
Oh man!
So when I did sidelines, that was a fun thing. And then after football season ended, that's when the SportsCenter calls came. That's when I started to do studio for college basketball.
Okay,
John Saunders was the main guy. I was the apprentice, doing sort of the off games, the late night games, the midnight snack, and the whack. I coined it because it was a midnight Eastern tip-off.
Sure.
Game's former players love to tell stories about what a tough guy he was. In the old days, when they practiced in this gym, if you missed a shot in practice, you had to come over here and climb to the top of the gym on these ropes. None of the Rams shed a tear when someone snuck in one night and cut them down.
that kind of
were those
thing.
the Fennis Dembo years?
Could have been defended. It could have been the Cowboys and the UC Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
the Anteaters, and the people like that. That that was Irvine, right? You see it, the Gauchos, the Anteaters. UNLV was pretty good back then.
Right.
So that kind of.
Okay. So who did you do your first SportsCenter with?
Tom Mees,
May he rest in peace.
the late great Tom Mees, and I've told this story because Tom was incredibly talented, incredibly steady. I was in good hands on the desk. Bedside manner was like, let's see what you got, kid.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And because I did look so young and I had done this high school show and I was not doing live in studio anchoring. I had never done any of that in Denver, by the way. This was the very first time I ever did it, was sort of unscripted, college basketball studios and pre-games and things like that. Thursday night football half times. And then when I did SportsCenter, I had really never read a teleprompter. I had not done some of the basic anchoring things.
Get out of here.
No.
Hello there, I'm Chris Fowler. Glad you could join me once again for SportsCenter. In case you weren't around to see Babe Ruth reach the 700 home run plateau or Lou Gehrig play his 2,000th straight game, this is your chance to witness a milestone no less amazing. Tuesday night against the A's, Nolan Ryan speeding toward 5,000 career strikeouts and beyond.
So you're showing up like a novice, if you will, teleprompter reader.
Yes.
And Tom Mees is sitting next to you. And this is
and
now
the old prompter script, which was like not electronic. The script gets plus carbons, like taped together, put on a belt, operated by the least experienced person in the country. Or at least the company.
I don't mean to laugh, but man.
Prompter,
Yeah, right.
So Tom Mees is there, and he was one of the guys along with Berman and Bob Lee. I was watching these guys when I was in college, so it was pretty cool, but it was also like swallow and just do this and like show what you got because, like I said, there was not a lot of hand holding.
Welcome to SportsCenter along with Tom Mees. I'm Chris Fowler. Corey paving the way.
The Prince of Pun, that's what they call me.
Stop it. We got baseball, golf, tennis, all of that later on. We start, though, with the NBA playoffs. The Celtics and Pacers, Game 5. The Celtics, the parquet floor, all those banners, all that history, the veteran team. The Pacers, an upstart bunch symbolized by Chuck Person. Brash.
Did all the banners, all the history mean anything? That was the big question, Chris.
This is different from what you've done. Here's how it's different. Here's how this is going to go. Here's what we expect of you. None of those things. We think it's the communication business. Almost none of that's ever communicated.
Browning's 6th win in a row, the last 5 complete games, and the Cubs have dropped 5 straight now since sweeping the Reds in Cincinnati. By the way, Joe Kramer has 5 strikeouts, leaving him just 5,002 short of Nolan Ryan's total. Lead still a game and a half over New York. The Expos do close to within 3, and the Cards also 3 back.
Nothing was communicated to me when I first got on SportsCenter.
I don't find that hard to believe at all.
They made me observe for 3 weeks when I got hired. And I had the same feeling as you did, which is I'm like, okay, I'm now walking around this newsroom. I came from Redding, California. So I came from market who the hell knows what. I don't even know what number. Like you came from Denver. And then did some work.
But I wasn't anchoring.
No, I understand that. But, you had some time in the television business. I had basically a year and a half in Redding, California. And I'm in it was like winning the lottery. It was great. But I'm walking around saying, this is everybody I just watched in college. This is what my dream was. This is what I wanted to do. When I'm like, I'm going to start figuring out how to be a sports broadcaster, this was the goal. And I had achieved it at age 26. And now I'm walking around. I had no earthly idea. None at all. Like I observed, that's it. They sat me in meetings and I watched 3 weeks of SportsCenters before they threw me out there. But they didn't tell me what's up. They didn't tell me what to do. But I had Larry Beal as my first guy, who was much more of a touchy-feely guy than from what you're describing about Tom Mees, I'm
not to say, it wasn't Tom Mees' job.
No, of course not. I know that.
Of all people, though, he was pretty crusty. And I had done some stuff with Bino Cook too, and in football, his bedside manner. He made Tom look like sunshine and rainbows. I mean, he was like he was there to like rattle your cage.
Surprise! It's that time of year again. Penn State is playing Alabama, and we always pick the winner in this game.
Take your temperature, absolutely. There's a story I can tell about.
Please.
When I filled in on Game Day in '89, Bob Carpenter's wife was giving birth, and he was the host of the show, and I was just a reporter on it. And emergency fill-in needed. Friday phone call.
Right.
Come in. You're going to do Game Day.
Good morning and welcome to ESPN College Game Day, along with Bino Cook and Lee Corso. I'm Chris Fowler, filling in for Bob Carpenter this week. We're pleased to report that Bob and his wife Debbie have a new addition to their family.
Now, I was familiar with the show. It wasn't a big deal. Well, it was a big deal for me, but Game Day wasn't a big deal. Game Day was not a coveted gig. Nobody
hadn't
really
traveled
watched it
yet, right?
No. It was
Okay.
it was a few years from being on the road, and it was also leading into games nobody watched, and it had no footprint at all in the sport or in the TV sports landscape. Okay,
let's get down to business now. On our hot seat this week, fourth-ranked Alabama. A lot at stake tonight. The Crimson Tide can clinch a share of the SEC title. It'd be their first in the post-Bear Bryant era. And, of course, they're still in the running for the national championship at 8-0. Standing in their way, LSU and a frenzied crowd of 80,000 in Baton Rouge. Bill Curry knows you have to beware a wounded cat, and the 2-6 Tigers say they're treating this game as their bowl.
So we're in the meeting, like probably 25 people sitting in one of those conference rooms, probably the same place that the SportsCenter meetings were.
Right.
Okay, Bino, I know you're interested in USC Arizona. The Wildcats have been tough at home this year.
They're definitely tough at home. They don't beat USC that much. They lost to California, and that took them out of the Rose Bowl. They need a miracle. They have to beat USC today and then hope UCLA beats USC, which isn't out of the question.
And Bino, you won't know if you don't know the voice, but I'm going to do an impression.
Do it, please. Go. This is great.
Fowler. Look at him over there. Look at you're shedding your pants. You're shedding your pants. You're not going to sleep tonight. I mean, unbelievable that you're here. And ha, I'm the joke. They're laughing. Everybody's laughing. And you know,
so great.
I wasn't shitting my pants as it turned out. It was okay.
You know, the Princeton Yale series, that series even predates you.
Definitely. First, 55 years ago, Yale beat Princeton 7-0. Yale did not make one substitute.
FYI.
Okay, I got through it, and it was fine.
This is a good series.
Yeah, we should point out, though, that Mr. Longstreth's daughter did change the day of his wedding, so Dad went out there.
Well, fine. Her father had the right priorities. A football game takes preference over a wedding.
Okay, it's time to look at our Game Day, etc. file.
And then they next year I was the host of the show, so I sort of like passed the audition. Bob was not interested in doing it beyond that. He wanted to do Cardinals play-by-play. And he was off to chase his dreams and other things, and Game Day definitely wasn't that for him.
Right.
And at that point, it wasn't what I wanted to do either, but it was an opportunity too good to pass up, and it was, I was talking college football, and it was fun.
College football's new #1, Michigan, welcomes their neighbors from the north to the Big House today. The Spartans are stumbling at 1-2-1, a major disappointment so far, but a chance for redemption today. Always remember, put on your mouthpiece, fasten the chin strap, every time these two battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy.
Anyway, there were a lot of gruff customers, but it was weird. When you got there, did they have that little position in the newsroom, not the studio, but like a little newsroom desk? And there was the old newsroom. It was about as big as this platform, right? And somebody would be sitting there, like Bob Lee or so, and they would be doing an update. And it was positioned so that to get in and out of the studio or the office there, you had to walk behind the person.
Yes.
So you could come in the door and like be right behind Bob Lee as he's doing this little update. It was crazy.
I didn't have that was gone by '96.
Yeah,
history.
Good choice to get rid of it. But it was just, my point was like what you even saw on the air from the studio.
Yeah.
In no way correlated to how primitive it was, like where the office space was and where you sort of worked on your scripts and what. Because later they would have like a nice big newsroom, and this was tiny.
Yeah. No, when I first got there, it was set up like a NASA mission control setup where there was one row of like 5-6 computers, and then another one behind it, and another one behind it, and another one behind it, all looking at this bank of televisions that we could all watch sports TV on while we were working on SportsCenter. That was it. And I'll never forget sitting there. Again, I'm 26 years old, and I'm seeing everybody that I just spent all this time in college wanting to be, colleagues with. And I'm just seeing them all there. And I was totally jarred by the experience. And I just remembered thinking to myself, I've got to work my ass off here. That in the same way that you realized you were like, this is big league time now. Like I realized that there were some serious lead pipe professionals here that I better show that I belong.
This was SportsCenter is presented by Gusto. Right now, everyone is trying to run leaner. Tighter budgets, smaller teams, higher expectations. The last thing you have time to waste on is manual payroll or chasing down an HR form. Gusto is how small business owners get time back when every hour counts. Gusto is online payroll and benefit software built for small businesses. It's all-in-one, remote-friendly, and incredibly easy to use, so you can pay, hire, onboard, and support your team from anywhere. Automatic payroll, tax filing, simple direct deposits, health benefits, commuter benefits, workers' comp, 401k, you name it. Gusto makes it simple and has options for nearly every budget. And it's all built to save you time with built-in automated tools for offer letters, onboarding docs, direct deposit, and more. Plus, you get unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price. No hidden fees, no surprises. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/TWSC and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/TWSC. One more time, gusto.com/TWSC.
You were not around. Like, I don't think I met you until like an ESPYs 2 years after I arrived, because you were in a totally different, you were already gone from SportsCenter's rotation.
Yeah.
Like, so how long were you on in the SportsCenter rotation? Just like a year or 2 years?
Tarico would be so disappointed that I don't recall this, the years and all that kind of stuff. He knows that he did. I think one of my last SportsCenters was with him, and he remembers that. I don't remember that. Or one of his last ones was, because we did overlap in that.
He is by far the strongest MVP candidate in the National League. The MVP candidates from both leagues right now relaxed, mingling in Pittsburgh for some of the pomp and circumstance of the All-Star Fest.
That's right, tonight the big All-Star Gala, or is it Gala? Whatever. I want to get Chris Meyer's opinion on that. We'll send you right now to a preview, Pittsburgh.
No, it would have been in the around 89, 90, 91, into the early 90s, and I sort of moved out of the nutmeg state, as I like to call it. I prefer Constitution state. I like the nutmeg state for Connecticut. About 94. So, but I did, Rich, I did every SportsCenter imaginable. I was the utility guy on the schedule.
Chris Fowler along with Chris Myers. We hope you're in the mood for scores and highlights and information. We are. Some interesting comments from Mike Tyson and also from fighters not behind bars, Holyfield, Holmes, and Foreman. But first, the fight to break par at Pebble Beach, day one.
You would wait for that monthly email schedule from a woman called Julie, no last name.
Julie. It's Julie Paradise. It's okay.
All right.
It's all right that she was in charge of it.
She was in charge. I'm not blaming her for my assignments, but you would wait for that email to come out, and then it'd be like your grades are posted on the wall.
I remember that.
And you go up, did I pass? What do I got this month?
Yeah, who am I on SportsCenter with? So what hour SportsCenters do I have?
Were they responsive to my suggestions / bitching and moaning? And was any alteration made since last month?
Right, and it would come out sometimes the day the month started. So you're like, I want to plan out March, and it's like February 28th, and you're like, when's that schedule coming out?
I don't even know how, if you had like a family, how you could coordinate schedules. The thing would hit, and it would be, and I would do, and I'm proud of this actually, because it shows that that you can work sleep deprived and work crazy schedules. I did within a week. One of the 6 o'clock SportsCenters, I think it was 11:30 before they went to 11. It was 11:30. I did a 2:30 a.m. The overnight show, and I did a weekend morning SportsCenter, because I eventually did Sunday Sports Day when Robin Roberts sort of moved out of that, and I worked with Dick Schaap and Frank DeFord and Lupica. They were in New York. I was in Bristol. But it was a kind of like a two-headed monster show where I did
reporters.
We kind of blended with them, but I would do 2 ways with Schaap, which was a thrill. I mean, to be able to overlap some of these true like OG TV giants was a cool thing. I mean, not on SportsCenter, but like Jim McKay, Jack Whitaker, covering thoroughbred racing. I get to work with them, and guys like Schaap was just, it was so cool to be able to think that I work with Dick Schaap. And so I did that in 1 week, which is pretty cool. I mean, not ideal, different producers, different, co-anchors, different types of shows.
Right.
So you just adapt to it. But I did that for a few years where outside of football season and basketball season, kind of to fill in the other dates that I was required to work, I would do all these various shows and it was a good learning experience, but it was also, I was sort of like biding my time.
Yeah, like what are you doing here, right? Like what is your goal? Like how does management view me in terms of a role here and in that schedule that would come out at any time. It would sometimes be a week in advance of the month, which was glorious, or the last possible second. And I would scour it to know when am I working, what hours am I working, what shows am I working, and with whom am I working. Right. That schedule is how Stuart and I learned we were a team.
Hi again, SportsCenter about to flow. Your official team, Rich Eisen in the house with Stuart Scott.
Because we would just open the schedule and I'd be like, okay, 2 a.m. show, 2 a.m. show, 2 a.m. show, 2 a.m. show. In straight line, like not like a day off in between. Just flat out, I'm a 2 a.m. SportsCenter anchor. And then I'd be like, who am I doing
11
it with?
o'clock Pacific time.
11 o'clock Pacific, that's correct. 2 a.m. Eastern.
Yes.
And I would then scroll down to see who am I doing the show with. And it would be Stuart having the same 2 a.m. line across. And at some point, we just turned to each other and we're like, are we a team?
We've got very high standards. Extremely.
Because no one
I didn't know
sat us down.
But no one put you together because, this Eisen guy and this Scott guy, this would be a great Miami Vice. Like, let's put them together. Yeah. There was just, you had no other like home earlier in the evening, right? So you guys became joined.
The unintended consequence of doing this show, if it's at any point in time, I could learn who decided Stuart and I are together. I would love to know.
Yeah.
I, to this day, do not know. Who was the executive to go, this is fun. This is like two guys, with different sensibilities and different upbringings and different ideas being mashed together, and it's working.
We begin with 2 snaps up and 2 good teams.
I feel like this is the opening of the Addams Family instead of SportsCenter.
Either the Addams Family or in living color, men on SportsCenter.
Oh, we got that straight away.
To this day, I have no idea who did it. All I know is that it was on the schedule.
Or did they do it? Was it intentional?
It had to have been at some point that they had to be like, it's
once you started doing it,
these
two guys are really good together.
I guess.
But I don't know if they would have known that ahead of time.
We would look at it one time. I don't know when it was. It's just as a memory of mine that Stuart looked at me in a commercial break, goes, hey, man, are we a team? Because we keep doing this show together. That actually happened. And the schedule is the one that would inform us. Nobody would call us into an office and say, you and Stuart are a team. You're congratulations.
I had no team.
Never happened.
I envy that. They say that part of the SportsCenter thing, which made it challenging, was I was not teamed with anybody. As a utility guy, you're going to come and you do. Yeah. So, but I did get to work with Berman. I did get to work with Keith. I got to work with Lee.
Dan,
or not really. A little bit less. So I think maybe he was kind of he had the 11. I did shows with him, but it was never like a regular thing. I might have filled in one night. Was there like who did you do it? Who did you do SportsCenter with the most? There had to be somebody, no? I mean, like Bill Patrick.
Okay.
Carolyn Burns.
I remember.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of SportsCenter. I'm Carolyn Burns, along with Chris Fowler. And you know what, Chris? It's the first time in 33 years that it has been a Cosmopolitan World Series. Finally, it gets underway.
Yeah, the longest layout between the playoffs and the World Series ever. And afterwards, the Giants said that might have affected him, a little bit flat.
You had to wonder.
Of course, it had to do something with the way Dave Stewart was pitching, too.
There was sort of different folks that would kind of get gravitated in the overnight. But it was interesting because you didn't really have a chance to develop real chemistry or a sense of rhythm or what this person is like.
Of course.
You're just together. I mean, I'll tell one story.
Please.
I don't know if I should name.
Oh, come on.
Who it was.
This is year 40 for you, Chris. Everyone knows
she went on to have a great career.
Although, is Jennifer, your wife, screaming at home right now?
No,
like saying, don't say it?
No, but
okay.
It was Carolyn Burns, I'll just say. Okay. She, by the way, after this episode went on and had a really nice career and did other things. But no, I didn't know her well. And so we're sitting there and Caroline, I'm sorry to tell you if this is embarrassing, but she had kind of a panic attack. which happens, you know, and
we've all had
wasn't
those,
the only person that at all. Many, it happened to many people. I'm sure I felt those emotions, but it didn't manifest. She really couldn't. She took her stack of scripts and shoved them my way. So now I had my stack and her stack right before we went on it, literally counting down. And I just kind of went, you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. Just push the stack back over. And she started, and once she got some air in the lungs and we got through the show. But those kinds of things you just don't know the vibe of who you're working with or how it's going to go. Maybe she was nervous because she was working with me. Who's this kid?
Right, sure.
And that could have been the reason why she was hyperventilating. But no, but then you're with Berman. The next night you could be with Berman and had some very memorable sports centers. Where it's sitting next to him. And you said you watched Oberman work. And that was eye-opening and humbling in a way. To watch Berman work, completely different MO, obviously.
Two of them met on the famed Paquet floor of the Boston Garden. Michael Jordan and the red-hot Chicago Bulls, winners of 7 in a row, strode into Boston to meet the Celtics and a man called Bird, Larry Bird. This just in. Both put on a big-time show. Why are we not surprised?
What do you got for me on that?
Chaos. Just whirls into the... Comes in there... And it was always like just in the nick of time.
By the way, that's all I've heard in this series for years, that you can count down 30 seconds to go and he's still talking to people behind the camera. What's up? How you been? And then
he whirled in here.
And he sits right down.
Yeah. But by the way, being late was what I had dreams about that, like recurring nightmares. I don't remember my dreams. I just don't, but I remember this dream what kept happening where I was late for SportsCenter.
I still have them, by the way. God bless you. I
haven't had them in a long time. You still have that dream?
I swear to God, I am trying to get from one building to the next, and I'm late for that SportsCenter. I have those dreams. I swear to you.
I'm told that's just a metaphor for anything you don't feel you're ready for, prepare for. So I'm like losing track of time. I'm in that bathroom that gets featured in some of the SportsCenter commercials. We put our makeup on, that upstairs bathroom that was like one staircase away from the actual studio. So that was the last minute kind of thing. I didn't know what I'm doing.
Because you were doing your own makeup.
Yes, we did our own makeup.
Back in that day.
Yes. And I didn't know what I was doing. Kept it simple. But, so my recurring dream was I was stumbling around trying to get, and the show's already on the air and I turn up and I'm late.
Right.
Well, Berman knew how to walk that line and that tightrope. And he got there at the last minute, but then scripts, more or less a pile, but kind of not. Shot sheets. Wire copy, AP wire stories about like the Mariners Red Sox games over here. So he could, like, when it came time to talk over the score panel, would like pull up a thing and like get something out of that. It was chaos on the desk. And I remember thinking, how can he do the kind of brilliant SportsCenter he's doing out of that chaos?
Michael Chang defeats Stefan Edberg 6-1, 3-6, 4-6, 6-4, 6-2. And oh, by the way, he's the first American to win in 34 years the men's title. Tony Trabert, of course, did that back in 1955. Michael Chang, $291,000 plus richer.
We all have our own methods, I guess is my point. But I was just like mesmerized by his ability to bring like order from that chaos.
In advance of recording a version of this show live at the Super Bowl with him in San Francisco, I had the ESPN people look up when I did SportsCenters with him, because he would frequently just parachute back in for 1 week's worth of SportsCenters when I was there from 96 to 03. And I just remember doing a couple of SportsCenters with him, and it was in 2001, and they cut a couple of the clips, and watching it back, I could just, it refreshed my memory of how I was just out of body when the show started, even though I was 5 years into my SportsCenter tenure, had to have been close to 4 figures of shows under my belt at that point in time.
Right.
And just out of body that he's the one I'm now doing this show with, the guy who I had spent in college watching the most, doing everything. And now it's me in that chair. and him just starting the hi, hello, as we would always script it, like, hi, welcome to SportsCenter. And he was just riffing, and I didn't know when to get in, how to react. I was just watching it back now as a grown-ass 56-year-old man.
You watched the tape back?
I did.
Cringy, or are you okay?
And it hit me. I'm like, I am watching, somebody in their early 30s, early on in a career, just blown away. Like I was out of it, and here I am watching it back, and I'm like, I don't blame me for, like, you could see I didn't know how to get in. I was trying to follow up on it. I made a Berman nickname joke that I didn't know if it landed or not.
The lone goal scored by Vladimir This is Orsog. This is your. I don't know.
Elton John. Vladimir was a big fan of Elton.
I'm trying to do something here.
That's risky. Ooh, you had the cojones to throw.
I'm just.
My most memorable SportsCenter was with Chris, and easily not just because I was with him, but because it was a very unusual SportsCenter where we had to report on Hank Gather's collapse on a basketball court for Loyola Marymount.
It was on the day that happened?
Yeah, the day it happened.
Tonight in Los Angeles, a story that transcends all merriment that is usually the world of sports. Hank Gather, senior from Loyola Marymount, the 11th leading all-time scorer in NCAA history, led the NCAA in scoring last year, led the NCAA in rebounding last year, collapsed during the first half of his LMU's WCC quarterfinal game in Los Angeles against Portland. At 6:55 West Coast time, he was pronounced dead at Daniel Freeman Marina Hospital about an hour and 20 minutes after his collapse.
And it was, he's out here in L.A. playing the conference tournament.
Sure.
And I had been doing the hoop wraps, and I had been out to do a feature. Paul Westhead was a coach at the time. Bo Kimball, Hank Gathers, both, Hank was a future NBA guy, and he had this heart problem, and he was taking medication for it. And the feature was about this whole thing, and this team which didn't play defense up and down the court, let the team score, that Paul Westhead style. And it had come up that Hank was struggling to play at his regular level with the medication he was on, and wished he would be less of that, a less heavy dose.
Mm-hmm.
So I had just, this is maybe a month before, I felt like maybe within a month of his death.
Mm-hmm.
And so this happens. I was just there doing SportsCenter, and I find myself, speaking, firsthand about the interview I'd done, and my impressions of him and the team, and when there's Chris and I doing the SportsCenter.
You had a chance to get to know him a little bit. You went out to Los Angeles recently. He's a different guy, wasn't he?
Tremendous guy, very likable guy, wanted to be a sportscaster, is very involved in internships and student television, radio programs in Loyola Marymount, extremely popular with his teammates. And I'll tell you, when I spoke with him last month, he was very concerned about his medication. Doctors had him on heavy doses of medication after that first collapse in December, and he was very sluggish. He couldn't play basketball, and that troubled him more than anything.
Chris Myers was out here in L.A. doing reporting on it. Sure. So we had a lot of Chris's. And it was an out-of-body experience. It was because it was, forget the prompter. It wasn't like a regular SportsCenter. We were covering this, and Chris was doing great reporting, and Chris was talking to me about what I knew of the story.
He was able to convince the doctors to slowly back away on the amount of medication he was taking. And as the medication was taken off, he became more and more effective on the basketball court, and became more and more the old Hank that his teammates remembered. All of them, to a man, said it wasn't the same Hank after his first collapse and after the amount of medication he was taking. But apparently the medication, after being removed, was not enough to stop the second collapse on the court.
That ended up being the SportsCenter episode that was submitted on the Emmy reel, and it won an Emmy.
No kidding.
The SportsCenter won an Emmy. Like, I think I was told this. I don't.
Sure.
That process I know nothing about, but I think yes, that's what they told me, and I got a statue. So. But yeah, it was that was an incredibly memorable thing, and to be able to sit there with the great Chris Berman and be able to offer something and be able to, speak off the cuff about this story, which was suddenly the only story that mattered that night, was pretty cool.
Dude, I did not know that.
In a tragic
Of course,
circumstance.
of course I know that, but at least for a fan sitting at home, morning immediately in the shock of it all for you able to try and make some sort of sense knowing what you're talking about.
No, it's the outlier shows. I mean, maybe this isn't true for you, but it's the outlier shows that you remember more, the things that were dramatic. It wasn't, hey, what a great Celtics Laker game. The highlight was wonderful that night. It's the other things that happened. I was a huge Formula One fan, and back in the day, the glory days, the early F1 days of the McLaren team, Ayrton Senna, Alain Prost, and those guys, and I was doing the morning SportsCenter on a weekend. The F1 races are on Sundays, and he crashed in the race in Italy, and to have to come on there and report that because the race was going on basically when the show was going on,
right?
And to report that he had crashed into the wall, and then he was being taken to the hospital, and then the show was long enough that I did have to go back and report that the worst news possible.
The news from Italy this morning is indeed tragic. Three-time world driving champion Ayrton Senna has now been confirmed dead by officials at the hospital following a violent collision during the San Marino Grand Prix this morning. Senna dying of massive head injuries. He suffered multiple skull fractures, a full-speed collision with the wall.
And he was one of the more, I don't know if heroic's the word, but one of the most admired sports people for me at the time. And so the fact that he had died in a crash was that I'll never forget that. I still get chills about it. That's an unusual show, but those are the ones I tend to remember, the ones that were unusual.
Sure, and obviously, again, in this show, this pod series that we're appreciate you taking part in here. Obviously, the pop culture touchstones that SportsCenter created and also embodied as an entity, along with the anchors who did it and the producers behind the scenes and all that, is one thing. But the journalistic aspect of that show, on top of it, I mean, it was basically sometimes a news magazine, and then at times serious breaking news that you had to take part in,
Yeah, no,
for sure.
That was the aberration, but those are the ones I just kind of remember because Ayrton Senna was something to me that it meant a lot to me, and to have to be the one that probably more than anyone else, because who else was on the air reporting live stuff on a Sunday morning that he had died. I still think about that.
So you started doing College GameDay around the country, and that took you off SportsCenter. When was the last time you did a SportsCenter?
Tirico knows the answer. I should text him. I don't remember, actually. It would have been about 93, 94. I don't know what his first year was with the company, but he overlapped a little bit. And
Tirico might answer, but he's probably calling a game right now.
He's somewhere between the Santa Clara and Cortina, Italy.
Exactly. I know. It's amazing what he has done with his career and what you've done with yours. What you're doing now, is this what you envisioned, what you wanted to do when you first started? This is it.
I mean, not specifically the sports I'm doing, but documenting live sports. Yes. And if you're lucky enough, championship moments in those sports.
Right.
So I my two favorite sports happen to be college football and tennis. Unlikely combo, and it wasn't an accident. I mean, I sort of navigated that way, and as we got more and more tennis, bigger and bigger events, I was able to convince them that was worth them putting me on.
Yeah.
Taking me off other things that were considered more higher profile, like college basketball, et cetera.
Right.
In the spring. Right. So, but I always wanted to do, it was the sound of a crowd through a radio that my grandmother had in her backyard in Rockford, Illinois, listening to Cubs games on the radio and scoring every game in a book that got me interested in this in the first place, of getting dropped off at my grandparents' house, listening to games, watching the first Super Bowls. I have memories of some of the first things I watched were the first Super Bowls with like a bowl of M&Ms on the table. My brother and I, my parents were not into sports, didn't have any, they were never on in our house, the Olympics maybe. But learning from her the joy of sports and the sound of a cheering crowd out of a TV or a radio, that's what drew me to it. Like, they're joyful. They're really joyful for the same reason at the same time in a group of people. That's how cool. And that was what it was. So you don't get that really in a studio environment. You get it from documenting live sports. And that's what I always kind of wanted to do. And it took a while to sort of get there. Game day was like a beautiful detour.
Well, also being live there.
Yeah, it was in front of a live audience. So it almost felt like you were, once the show went on the road, like you were documenting a live event. It was we were the event, but it was capturing in front of a live crowd the energy of a game, kind of.
When did you know that show had hit? When did you know College Game Day was becoming as iconic as anything that ESPN has put together?
It was a slow burn. I mean, the first few years I did it, we're in the studio again, not leading into big games. The numbers weren't very good. I think they were going to keep the show around, but I'm not sure they were super convinced that anything would come of it. When we got on the road, Rich, 1993 in November, the Florida State Notre Dame 1-2 game, we finally convinced them to do it. Take it on the road in the regular season.
Yeah.
We are just across the street from Notre Dame Stadium at the Ed Joyce Center, live for a special College Game Day and surrounded by all kinds of memorabilia, a reminder of the great tradition of this Notre Dame program, and today's game, just the latest chapter in that great history.
They said it was going to cost $50,000 to do it, which was apparently a lot of money to them. It's laughable now,
right?
In 1993. But yeah, so that was kind of like a huge lightning bolt moment. We knew that, hey, this is really what we need to do. We need to get this show on a campus, showcase what's great about college football. That was a moment, an event that cut across the sports landscape, that 1-2 game, South versus North, Holtz versus Bowden. It had all the ingredients.
Sure.
Chris Fowler, along with the Coach Lee Corso, the Pony, Craig James, and about 2,000 Irish and Seminole fans. They have been yelling. They are revved up. These guys are definitely revved up. Only in college football can you have a regular season event of this magnitude, because other sports settle things with the playoff, and it's much more special, of course, to have it on a college campus.
We didn't know what we were doing. We've dropped the set in the Hall of Fame indoors and put like a rope around it, and wore lavalier mics, which gave us little chance to be heard over the crowd if they made any noise.
I like a block punt by Florida State. I'll take Florida State 31-30. Yay! I'll take Notre Dame 31-30.
So the fans were inside?
Inside.
When was the first time that people just started showing up on their own because you were there, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, that day they kind of showed up like, let me see the trophies. What's going on over there? Right. No one knew what we were doing.
Right.
I mean, they just showed up because that was where the pep rally was in the same building the night before, which we covered. And then the Saturday morning, people would wander around, and this was November, so they'd probably staying out of the cold, and then before they went into the game. No, in 94, 95, we started taking it on the road more and more, and then it became something that, okay, now now we're in a different weight class here.
Well, that's why I was wondering, like, was there a campus or a moment where you and whoever else was doing the show with you with regularity at the time looked out during a commercial break over your shoulder going, holy shit, that's a lot of people that are here, and that the next week they now want to top it, that you now got in the zeitgeist of the campus where the fans were like, oh, so they showed up like that? Wait till we show up like this.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That was a fun era because they did want to top. They wanted to break the record. It was like nobody ever had a true head count, right. But they wanted to break the record.
Right.
No, it hit me in Lincoln, Nebraska.
You can tell the alarm clock went off mighty early all over the state of Nebraska. They say great teams have to rise to the occasion. Both of these teams have had to rise pretty early. They've been up since 6 o'clock in the morning for this early kickoff. Some of them have been up most of the night.
There was an October game near Halloween. Nebraska beat Colorado, which is my alma mater, and ripped the goalposts down.
Okay.
And took them out the stadium and walked them through the crowd. This was like a post-game show we had done. So we did the morning show, but then the post-game show, when the stadium would let out, we'd be in the same spot. And that would be even more energy when the home team won.
Yes.
So I see a goalpost with like a jagged metal end, like being brought through this crowd of like Cornhusker fans. And I'm thinking like, we better get this thing away. Somebody's going to get killed.
Sure.
So we let them bring it, and they laid it on the desk.
Get out of here.
They put the goalpost across the desk like a trophy. You know, it was like a
trophy.
It was like a tusk of a woolly mammoth that they had
the slain. Right.
And they dropped the bar on it and they were going crazy, you know, and so we realized like, okay, this energy of this sport, which I think is the best suited sport for an on-site pregame show. It's been tried obviously every other sport now, but we thought this is pretty cool. And then it was Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, you know, figuring out this is an infomercial for our program.
They may have broken our College GameDay attendance record set last year at Kansas State. Frank Beamer has one caution. Pace yourselves. Save it for tonight at 6 o'clock, the kickoff.
This is an opportunity that we're not going to let go. We're going to get every student out there for the pregame show, and we're going to fill up Lane Stadium, and we're going to make it obvious that Virginia Tech was the coolest place to be on a Saturday morning. And the smart coaches sort of figured out how to use this and not be inconvenienced by the pain in the ass that it was to have a show, you know, taking up your parking lot or your quad. You know, at the time it was so new, and it was a nuisance. These colleges didn't really want to play ball.
That's the way the combine was for NFL Network at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, what a nuisance.
Are you doing here?
What are we doing here? Until they realized more and more players, more and more athletes are going to start running the 40 because they can be running on. So
lo and behold, exposure is kind of good, as it turns out.
Just, as Berman would say, this just did. Yes, correct. And so, you know, so coaches began to utilize your platform and the cameras that your show was bringing as a way to say, look at what we've built here as a program.
Win-win.
I would think, right?
Yeah, no, and it got that way, and it was fun. And I think that at that point there was a real momentum. We were on this show on the road every week with the show,
right?
Beginning about '96. That's the year Herb Street came on this show. Kirk was there. His first year was '96, and so it definitely mushroomed from there. And then you know, I think the challenge became, how do you, if not top it, make sure every week is unique and it's not just a bunch of screaming kids who are hungover or sleep deprived, but we try to capture like what's cool about LSU, Oregon, Ohio State. You know, we wanted to make sure it looked and felt different depending on where we were.
Well, I mean, it's become as iconic a show as there is, including, you know, the show that this pod's all about with SportsCenter. Would you want to do another SportsCenter again?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. You know, I mean, I'm up for anything, but like, you know, do I have to read a teleprompter? Because I haven't read one since I left. I don't use a teleprompter for anything. So the hardest thing is I
think you could pick it up.
I think
you'd be able to pick it up.
Okay, to the ballparks now. A June night with an October feel to it. Big hype. First place Cincinnati, winners of 6 straight. Second place Atlanta, riding a 7-game streak. It could be the beginning of a beautiful pennant race for you Casablanca fans.
If you write it yourself, it's easier to use
I mean, just to go back one.
I don't know.
I don't know, just one more time. You know what I mean?
But they have a SportsCenter version now where it's a casual show and they're like sitting on a couch.
Sure. I mean, it's different versions of it. Obviously, you know, what Scott's doing now is close to the old school as there is, or any of the, you know, the overnight shows or the 2 a.m. shows like that. It's still, you know, similar. Just doing it the one time I did it last August.
Yeah.
Was just, well, for me, it's different because it'd been 20-something years, and you've had 40 continuous
you
years.
Had
I'm like
a glorious run, though.
I'm like a Grover Cleveland here. I'm in my second administration.
I think you felt like when you were doing it, right? I mean, that was something amazing.
There's nothing like it.
That's what you wanted to do, and that's why I don't want to sound at all ungrateful, because I'm not. But it wasn't the ultimate thing for me. It was sort of like a huge step up.
Yes.
A serious challenge.
Yes.
A lot of fun. Like I said, I worked with a lot of different people.
At night's end, we were down to just 8 in the NCAA tournament.
Going to start in the West region, the hardest region to figure out. You know, 2 months ago, Temple was about 6 light years away from being a team capable of making the Final Four.
I never had the continuity that you would get from being a regular guy doing it, but But I also, I knew that I wanted to be part of live shows, live sports broadcasts.
I'm with you because, again, the show that I did the most would never be done anymore, ever again. Think about it. The 2 a.m. show I would do with Stewart then became the 1 a.m. show because they wanted to get it on earlier. And could you imagine in this day and age where everything is now an alert on your phone or in the palm of your hand, and that's how you're learning about it? Could you imagine that ESPN would have a news and information show like SportsCenter and run it back ancient over and over and over again?
Rich and I coming right back. If you take the Mavs first quarter and the Raptors fourth quarter, 2 different games, you have 20 combined points. Oh, it continues in the NBA.
And we learn how some Patriot fans need lessons in both manners and grammar. Stewart got more than nothing when we come right back.
For 9 straight hours the next morning as news is breaking. Like, that would never happen again. That would never happen again. Where the ESPN would never run a show at 11 in the morning Eastern time that was recorded at 2 in the morning and talk about what sports is going on right now. Things break so much. Now they would never. It's just not the same way.
The fact that it re-aired, because I did those overnight shows where you used to once the show finished, it was already really late, like wee hours. You'd have to stay and do the alternate close, right? Because the show would be used again and again and again. Sometimes it would just lead into itself.
Yeah, right.
The show would repeat.
It would cycle in, yeah.
But it would be also other things, including the body shaping show, which was co-hosted by my now wife.
That's correct,
Jennifer Dempster. So we didn't even know each other then, but I had to stop and do. One of her many jobs was the longest running fitness show in the history of ESPN. They ran it forever, and the
body shape
made a lot of body shape.
Oh yeah, that was
made a lot of money for
with what am I blanking on her name? Austin, right? What was her name?
Well, Denise Austin.
She was
another. They had the fitness block.
Yes, they did.
But body shaping had its own cast, and there was kind of the core cast which Jennifer was a part of, and then a few other people kind of came and went. But yeah, so. That's it for SportsCenter. Stay tuned for body shaping. And then you'd have to do 3 scores at the end of the show because it wasn't a long segment because then it would be ridiculous to continue to do it again and again. And then the next, stay tuned for, Gilad, his video, whatever was coming up next.
That was the swarthy looking dude, right?
Yes,
who was doing it, right?
It was the Israeli, I believe.
That's
who
right.
did a show.
Jake, Body by Jake Steinfeld,
and then Gilad's sister, I think, maybe did a fitness show.
Yeah.
Like a military theme, where they were on the
with fatigues,
on an aircraft carrier or something.
And then sometimes it was World's Strongest Man.
Yes, there was a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
I used to joke, the high school show that I did was sandwiched in between, monster truck maybe or celebrity skeet shooting. That was a real show.
Celebrity skeet shooting.
That was a real show. I don't know how long lived it was, but I remember it being wedged in it because SSA
James
would run.
Garner was taking some shots or something like Bob Conrad.
I think they weren't.
Gabe Kaplan?
They weren't that. The celebrities were not of that caliber.
Okay.
I don't think.
Here's Telly Savalas.
It was not like Battle of the Network stars.
Okay.
Gabriel Kaplan, captain of NBC.
Look at that shot. He hits the bullseye.
Bobby Benton. No, I mean, this was not Howard doing Battle of the Network. So these were, that show would run after school or weekend mornings, but just get slotted all over the place. But it would definitely fall in between shows like that.
Yeah.
So,
damn. I gotta get you back. You should just do one more SportsCenter.
I don't know if do you have the ability to make it a binding offer? I'm not making a binding commitment. It's an interesting idea. You know what
I mean? Because I want to get some of the old school back together. I would love to. I'd love to figure that out.
But do a new school type show.
No, just do it again. When I did it back in August, same music, same graphics, just a lot of highlights.
Yeah.
It's not too far from what it is right now. Just different music, same different graphics.
Yeah.
Just getting you back on one more SportsCenter. What if you did it with Tirico? What if we get Tirico to do it?
If you get him back,
I don't know. I mean,
a three-headed monster. No, those kinds of things are fun to me. I at this point, I outside of the normal football, tennis kind of thing, the only thing I'll say yes to is something that sounds. I host the U.S. Open for polo. It's a home game down in Florida, so I didn't know much about polo, but dude, I did
You
X
did it all.
Games.
Yeah.
X Games, Winter X Games. I did a lot of different things, and so I was never like too proud to take on some kind of crazy ideas.
We have a lot more still to come on down the stretch. Right after this break, we'll show you Secretariat. Where is he now? Well, the old guy can't really get it up anymore, so those high-priced stud fees are all gone. He finds himself keeping company with a bunch of cows in New Jersey.
Yeah, why not?
Well, I'll share this just as we wrap up here. That I don't know if I've ever told you this, so screw it, I'll say it here. I used you, Tirico, and Robin Roberts when I was trying to stay with ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was having a dinner with the executive Mark Shapiro, whose name gets mentioned every now and then around here on this show. And because he only wanted me to do SportsCenter, which is how I wound up getting handed a cardboard box at the end of the day, because it was too late trying to figure other parts out, at least in his mind or the rest of management. I said basically, like, look at what, I used your example, Tirico's example, and Robin Roberts' example about look at what they've done for the company writ large, for Disney, not just ESPN, for the whole Disney concept. This is early aughts, and look at what they've done. Would you go back in time and tell them they can't be the voice of college football now, or what Tirico was doing at the time? Clearly, he was gone from SportsCenter at that point, and Robin Roberts was becoming, the
massive crossover.
Exactly. I mean, the grand
Whatever
game
happened
of
to Robin?
I said, what would you go back in time and tell them they have to do SportsCenter for the rest of their careers? And he looked at me and said, yeah. And that's when I knew that I probably wasn't going to be sticking with ESPN anymore. That if I'm going to be made an example of, I still need to stand my ground. I need to figure out what I want to do and play around with other toys in the Disney chest. And, interestingly enough, here I am in 26, doing that. But
we made a smart choice.
But I tried. I said, what about you? Because you were doing what you should be doing, which is, taking in what ESPN could offer, killing it, doing that, building your own brand, and doing some other things that you wanted to do, and become a voice in a sport or other things outside of SportsCenter that are very valuable for the company, but also rewarding for you personally and professionally.
They really wanted you to live in Bristol, though. That was a big thing. I mean,
right.
Well, one of Tim Brando, who was the original host of College GameDay,
right.
For the first year, and then he and I overlapped, and he obviously is still involved in college football and college sports. But I think he thinks of himself, he might have been the Curt Flood, old free agent baseball reference, who got out, convinced them to sort of, he could still work for the company, but he didn't want to live in Bristol. He wanted to live in Shreveport, Louisiana. I just wanted to live in New York. I couldn't.
Me too.
I couldn't stay there anymore. I couldn't. Someone I was seeing at the time, she lived in Boston, so it was either or, but ended up wanting to live in New York, and they finally relented. I could continue to work at ESPN, but not live in metropolitan Bristol.
Right.
And that was pretty controversial. It was hard to get your wish that way.
Trust me, I noticed that. And at the end of the day, Mark did offer me a job in New York for I was hosting the original Cold Pizza.
Yeah.
And I just was, it just didn't strike me as something that I wanted to do. So I said no to that. And I got a cardboard box, unlike you saying no to the Los Angeles job, and being allowed to stay. It's just different times, different, management priorities or whatever, but it's still the same story.
But you were way more advanced in your career. I mean, I think you knew. I mean, maybe you didn't know, but you had. I was either naive or I had the hubris to say no to them a couple times. By the way, after that, you get more confident. You realize, okay, I can do this. And I think that, and I still feel that way. If things if we couldn't see eye to eye, and it was. I'll just tell you, I mean, it was close to not happening, the deal I'm in right now. Then I'm at peace. Like I'm okay. Now that would have been foolish as a kid to do something that would have got me let go from ESPN.
Right.
But didn't even occur to me that was I was risking that. So you kind of knew, maybe you didn't know.
Well, I didn't think it was going to wind up with a cardboard box. No. I didn't. Certainly 10 days, just to bring this whole thing full circle, since we're talking about an hour, it was 10 days before Susie and I got married.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a wild time, but thankfully, you know, and again, that's another reason why doing that SportsCenter in August was kind of cathartic for me, that I got to do it again when I thought I would never do it again, ever. And that's of my own choice, which is why you should do it again, because it's your choice.
I got a cardboard box.
What if we did it?
I have cardboard boxes, by the way. They just sent me cardboard boxes from Bristol, like about 4 or 5 months ago.
Of your stuff?
Of shit that
you left?
I left. They finally. I hadn't had a desk. I hadn't had a phone.
Yeah.
I haven't had a company email in I mean, many years.
Yeah.
And I guess at some point when they were moving these boxes out of the basement or shutting this part down, they said enough's enough. Like there's mini helmets, stuffed animals from colleges, jerseys with my name on them, the kicking shoe of Northwestern's kicker from the 1995 Rose Bowl team.
Dude.
And Sam Balanzizi, who signed his kicking shoe, and it was on my desk somewhere. Now it gets sent me in a box from ESPN. So I finally got my cardboard boxes. There are 2 of them. About 15 years after I had an office there.
Take your stuff out of here already, Fowler. Maybe let's you and I do one.
Sure.
Well, now you're just saying that. Now.
Well,
I don't want to.
I don't. It's a great
let's
idea.
Work on it.
Let's think of it.
Let's work on it. We'll work on it.
Sure.
Because you know what I think of you. But thank you for doing this. You know,
no, it's fun, man.
This is excellent memory lane stuff.
I am not a reflective person. I don't take this opportunity, but I had a great time, and you're the only one who would sit down and do this.
I appreciate that. Yeah. That means a lot to me, man. But because people should know about back in the day now, and know what they're seeing now. Had people who like yourself who were there, you know, in the very early days of getting something like this done. And I appreciate you sharing everything, because I imagine you do look back, and just to wrap this whole thing up, about what SportsCenter meant to you.
Oh, yeah.
And how it all does sort of, I know you had a show before it and did a bunch of other things, but
I had a magazine high school show.
Okay.
And I had some feeling. No, I obviously, I mean, to be a part of that, I mean, the roster is staggering.
Yeah.
The number of people who came through and did it, and they blew up because of it, or they moved on and went on to other things. I'm immensely proud of it. I mean, it was scary. It was fulfilling in the best way. I think all those things that you do, because they're challenging and they're fulfilling, and they require something of you you weren't sure you had. And also, really, it's about the people too. Honestly, you mentioned some of the anchors, some of the producers, some of the other people who became dear friends, people who ran prompter for me, people who were production assistants on the show, ended up knowing them for a long time. And I really think that the collaborative part of this business is really the priceless part of it. So you think you're just sitting out there with one other person, you know what goes into that. And yeah, that's the fact that I got to sit there with Oberman, with Berman, with Dan, with you, and with Tirico, and on and on. It was pretty cool.
Oh man, I appreciate you sharing. Good luck in your 50th or your 5th decade.
Yeah,
I'm glad that we at least doing this show established that your math was off. This is your 40th year, man.
Yeah, I guess I was saying 38th, and it was a habit. It was 40 years ago, in the spring of 2026.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Rich.
Chris Fowler in the latest edition of This Was SportsCenter.